This is the Sprint UpStage, a CDMA version of Samsung's Ultra Music phone. Although it's a music-focused phone, Sprint swears they're not trying to replace your 30-gig iPod. But the name says a little bit about what they're hoping to do to the iPhone, right? The UpStage is small. In fact, it's not much bigger than the Nano that someone hopes you might leave at home in favor of this phone. But in order to make a phone this small with so much power, Samsung had to make a few compromises. For instance, you can see on this side of the phone, there's just a tiny little screen. I say on this side because there's a flip button that lets you switch the phone to the other side where there's a large screen and touch-sensitive controls. But by making the phone so small and so thin, Samsung didn't leave a lot of room for a battery. The battery built into the phone only lasts about a day if you're playing music, making phone calls, and doing all the sorts of stuff you'd normally do with the phone. However, they've included a battery wallet, which charges with the phone, and the phone can sit in for you to use. With the battery wallet, you get about 3 days of use out of the combo. The battery wallet is set up so that you use the phone side very easily. In fact, it's hooked in that way. If you want to use the music side with the large screen, then you're going to have to pull the phone out, and both sides of the wallet will sort of flap around. This is unfortunate because you wind up using this side of the phone much more often than you use the other side, between the large screen and the full menu here. Samsung and Sprint don't kid themselves. They know that they're not going to be able to show you a full menu on this tiny little screen. The menu on this phone side just has a few limited features that you might want to access with the keypad. Because of the size of the screen and the touch-sensitive control pad, this is the side of the phone that you're going to use for most everything. If we go to the main menu, you can see that you have the full array of typical Sprint applications like On Demand, a web browser, Sprint TV, which replaces the old generic media player, and the music store, which now is your one-stop shop for all music. The UpStage includes a new music player that's vastly improved over previous versions. In addition to improving the player itself, Sprint also has included PC software that lets you move music from your iTunes library or your Windows Media Player library directly to the UpStage without having to worry about where your music is or moving it into a Sprint library first or anything like that. It's actually pretty nice. For those of us who don't use Windows PCs, the UpStage also has a mass storage mode that will let you move songs directly onto the memory card from any other kind of computer. The UpStage finally brings Sprint into line with music phones from other carriers. And for once, when you start your music playing, you can actually do other things besides just listen to your music or take phone calls. If we hide the application, you'll see we go back to the main screen, and when we hit menu, we get this multitasking screen. You don't have access to every application on the phone, but you at least have access to a few. If we go to send a text message, we can actually show you what it's like to use the big screen and the little screen in conjunction with each other. Let's say, for instance, we want to send something to Google. We get a message to flip the phone, and you'll see that there's the screen on the other side waiting for us. While we're here, we can also give the phone scoop test. And it doesn't perform too badly. Although the controls on the music side are touch sensitive, the controls on the phone side are regular keys. That reminds me, let's take a second and check out how the UpStage is set up. I know we normally do this in the beginning of the video, but I was so carried away with all the music features that I figured you could wait. At the top is the only speaker. That's right, no stereo speakers. even though it's a music phone, followed by the camera. So you actually use the music side screen as your viewfinder, followed by the small screen and the regular array of phone buttons. As I just said, these are standard buttons, not touch-sensitive ones. This causes a bit of confusion because if you're used to using the other side, when you flip the phone over and start just hitting the D-pad, expecting it to be touch-sensitive, it takes a second for you to realize that you actually have to press the keys in. On the right side is the flip button and a key lock, which turns off both screens and locks the keys on both sides. Also, the micro SD slot. On the left side are your volume keys and the jack that's used for the headset and charger. And finally, on the music side is a much larger screen and touch-sensitive controls. Although there's a ring of controls, it doesn't work like the iPod where you can keep running your finger around the ring. In fact, you can only go in one direction. So if you want to scroll, you have to quickly run your finger down and then hold, and you'll see that the scrolling will get progressively faster the longer you hold your finger where you left it. Unfortunately, the fact that you don't have access to every application while your music's playing revealed a couple of the shortcomings of the music player to us. The first thing happened when we wanted to take a picture, which isn't one of the things that you can do while the music is going. We hit pause, exited the application, went to go take our picture, and then when we went back to the music application, it started all over again, reloads our music, and doesn't take us back to where we were. Unfortunately, even a little $80 iPod Shuffle does this, and we were kind of disappointed by it. I know I've spent a lot of time here talking about the music player, but as I've mentioned before, the UpStage features all of the applications that you'd find on any Sprint phone. And in fact, it does most of them rather well, despite the fact that sometimes you have to flip back and forth to enter text. When I first started reviewing the UpStage, I thought that having to flip the phone back and forth would be the most annoying part about using it. But it turns out what really got to me in the end were the shortcomings in the music player. It's pretty good, but it's still not as good as the standalone player of your choice.